Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tab. Glad you made it. Today, topic, prove it. Prove it is the topic because that's what you need to do when you're filing your claim with the VA. Why? Because the VA process is a legal process. It is a legal process in that once your claim is fully decided, it is fully adjudicated. And you can appeal decisions along the way. You can have it seen by a federal law judge in the veteran space and the Veterans Board of Appeals. So it is a legal process, and understanding that it's a legal process is the key, and everything you do has to do with proving your case. Now, if that's something that you want to hear a little more about, hit that thumbs up for me, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. Put some comments below because that helps me get this information out. And oh, by the way, I'm also going to put a link in here to a survey if you're interested in joining a veterans benefits info session, we'll call it. And there's a survey in there with a bunch of different questions that kind of help guide where I'll take it. So in any case, let's get on to prove it. So what happens is with the VA is really not trying to help you, we'll say, with your claim process. Now they can to some point, like for example, there's the duty to assist, which a lot of people have heard or seen online or what have you. Their duty to assist is not, this forever going thing. They'll give it a few tries and then they kind of just put their hands in the air and move forward. So do not rely on the VA's duty to assist. Take the ball into your own hands and make the run. That's really what the bottom line. You should absolutely be the one who's trying to gather all your stuff. And even if you're having an issue getting it, remember the duty to assist is only for federal agencies. So the VA will only help get your information, medical records, whatever, from different military or VA facilities or whatever, a federal installation. So, or institution. So with that in mind, if you're having problems getting something from one of those areas, don't rely on the VA's duty to assist. Now, you can put one in all day long if you want to. That's fine. I'm not telling you not to. You can. You can ask them to help you. But you can also still try to help yourself and get it yourself. And then it's kind of like a race, whoever gets it first, right? So you could also lean on your congressional member. You could reach out to your congressman or woman and fill out an inquiry with them, letting them know that you need some assistance with whatever government entity at the federal level, and this is what you're trying to do. And they will help you out. That's what they're there for. So they have their field offices in your backyard or neighboring town or city or whatever to help you. So leverage that if you need to. As you're building your proof, right, for your claim, again, everything is proof. Everything is evidence. And quite frankly, that proof or evidence can be for you or against you. So you need to be, smart with what you're doing. The good news is the VA's threshold is not like the court of law, watching Judge Judy, where it's, without a reasonable doubt. It's not that high, okay? The VA's threshold is at least likely as not. And what that means in the VA's terms is if evidence is in equipoise, meaning that it's equal on each side, for you and against you, the VA is to rule in your favor. So if the VA's threshold is 50-50, it's a fairly low bar considering the outcomes. So with that, the VA also has the ability to grant what they call presumptives, which eliminates some of the proof piece. The presumptives are primarily, there's others, but primarily now through the PACT Act, Gulf War vets with all kinds of respiratory issues and cancers, Vietnam vets with Agent Orange and cancers and, ischemic heart disease and diabetes and a whole list of other things. And then there's a presumptive period that a lot of people don't know about. And it's a 1-year period after your date of discharge. That 1 year after your date of discharge, if you went to a doctor, now that you're out, Now that you don't have anybody breathing down your neck because you went and saw the medic or went to the battalion aid station or wherever you went, now you go to a doctor, 6 months after you got out, and you're like, yeah, I've had migraines for the last however many years, ever since I was in the whatever branch. And that doctor prescribes you something for your migraines and annotates in there, yeah, he's had it ever since he was in the military, a couple years ago. And that is a presumptive condition according to the VA. So what that means is you do not have to prove, back to the prove it thing, you don't have to prove that it manifested during your time in service. So presumptives are huge. And if you got out and started to go to the doctor a few times afterwards, especially within that first year, you really need to try to track that down. And I know for some of us it's been 100 years, right? So, but for those of us that have only been out for 5, 6, 8 years, maybe you remember who that doctor's office is. So, just an important piece when it comes to packaging up your claim. So, with the prove it piece, again, everything is evidence and everything has to be proven, right? So that the three things that I like to talk about in the vein of successful claim is, one, you have to prove that you did your time, right? Your active duty time is typically what we look at. So your active duty time gives a DD-214 that shows your entry and exit dates. Okay, that now you're proving this is my window of opportunity. Now remember, and nobody ever talks about it, the VA gives an extra 12 months bump on the back. Not for injuries really, but more for like diseases, right? So GERD, I never got diagnosed when I was in, but I got diagnosed when I was, fresh out, right? Or I got diagnosed for migraines, within that 12-month period. So it's your date of enlistment or, the time you were in as an officer, whatever that time frame is. The time frame, and then you got your little 1 year bump at the end for some conditions to be presumptive. So that's the first piece that you have to prove, right, is your time in. The second piece that you have to prove is you actually have a condition, right? We're really, really good at self-diagnosing. The VA doesn't care how many times you tell them that you have migraines or you have GERD or you have arthritis or you have insomnia, right? They don't care. They don't care how many times you say it because you don't matter. You're not a medical professional unless you are. But you're typically not a medical professional, so you need to go get a diagnosis from a medical professional. Have that medical person, doctor, physician's assistant, in some cases a nurse or a psychiatrist, whatever, right? So you're getting a diagnosis for a condition, and if you get a prescription with that, you get a prescription with it. That also becomes evidence because no doctor would prescribe you something that you are not diagnosed for. In some cases, if a doctor prescribes you something, for example, diabetes. If you have diabetes but you have to take medication, you get a higher rating. If you have diabetes and you can monitor it or you can kind of maintain it on a strict diet, then it's a lower rating. So the medication piece plays a part in some few rating decisions and tells you where your rating will fall. So a higher rating would be associated with a prescription. So with that, now you have your diagnosis, which is proof, and you're submitting that, doctor's records, whatever. If you have to get a nexus letter from your doctor, right? Doctor saying that it's at least likely as not to have manifested during your time in service because you need to build that bridge, then that's what you need to do. And that kind of brings me to the next point, which is the nexus. You have your time in service, you have your diagnosed condition. Great. That's not enough. You need to now prove that that condition manifested, and I like to use that word because it is really kind of all-encompassing, right? It showed up somehow, some way. That your condition manifested during your time in service. Okay, this is really important because it is not the military caused this to me. It can include that, but it's not solely that. It can also be, I come from a family of migraine sufferers. Everybody has migraines. They started getting migraines at age 20, and sure enough, when I turned 20 in the military, I started getting migraines too. You joined without them, When you were in, you got them. They manifested during your time in service, and there you go. So you need to prove to the VA that your condition manifested in. The easiest way is if I went and saw a doctor and that doctor prescribed me and whatever medication and diagnosed me, right? That would be the easiest way. But as we all know, many of us stay away from the hospital, the aid stations, the medics, all of that stuff, because it's just not a good look, right? So whether you're just trying to make it through your time, or you're trying to get promoted, or you're trying to stay deployable, whatever the case is, you tend to stay away from those services. So unfortunately, a lot of us end up not documented unless it's an injury, right? Which then you're kind of, if it's a bad enough injury, you're getting it documented because you really don't have any other choice. You can't just limp it off. Now, that's the best way, right, to prove the nexus that it manifested during time and service. The other is now you've gotten out, right? There's kind of two versions here. You may have on your last health assessment, your exit health assessment, you may have checked a box on one of the forms that, has whatever, 50 items. Have you now, or have you ever experienced any of these things? Heartburn, headaches, stiff joints, tuberculosis, whatever, any types of cancer, whatever. And it goes through the whole list. And you're self-attesting, right? Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And then on the next page, it's actually signed by whatever, an 04 or 05 medical person, right? So whether it's a doctor or physician's assistant or what have you. So they sign off on it. And now that is your link, your proof to, hey, look, I complained about it to a doctor when I was in service. And that becomes really your hinge that you're able to now leverage your nexus from. Now, let's say you get out and now you don't have anything that's directly in the time frame that you served, and you missed that 1 year period. Now you have to figure something out. How do you prove to the VA that condition of GERD or migraines or sinusitis, these would be common things that you're taking over-the-counter medication trying to deal with, and not necessarily going to a doctor. So now you're out, you've been out for however many years. How do you now prove to the VA that condition manifested during your time in service? Well, what you're going to have to do now is you're going to have to write a letter for yourself explaining the circumstances. You went to the grocery store and you bought whatever to manage it. You sucked it up, that type of stuff. The corpsman or the medic just gave you some antacid or gave you some Motrin, but they never wrote anything down. They gave you Benadryl, whatever it is, right? So all kind of over-the-counter stuff. Then you would, if you were married at the time, or you had a significant other that lived with you and knew that you suffered with these things, they could write a letter on your behalf talking about their experience, seeing you deal with these specific conditions, and basically they're attesting to the fact that you do have these and that they manifested in that time frame. Then buddy statements from people that you actually served with. So if you're still in contact with 2 or 3 or 5 people that knew you then, and you slept right next to somebody and they knew that you had horrible migraines, or they were part of your squad or in your platoon or whatever, right? You could have them write a letter as well, 2, 3 letters, whatever. It's lay evidence. It's not super strong, but it's evidence, right? And when it gets, if the VA turns you down, you now appeal it, and when a judge looks at it, a judge is looking at it through the scope of evidence for you, evidence against you, where you at, and you'll have a much better shot, right? So with that, it's a very long video, and I apologize for that, but I just wanted to let you know that everything you do with the VA is a prove it or lose it situation, and everything that you give them is evidence, and it could be used against you or for you. And the threshold you're trying to meet is at least likely as not, and then that will help you out. So with that, I'll go ahead and end it here. Thanks again. I appreciate each and every one of you. Have a great day. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.